Hey guys, this is Goku, and today we're gonna be talking about the bet sizing. You will learn that every single one of your bets has to serve a specific purpose, and you will also learn how you should size your bets. So, let's get right into it. Before we get into the specifics of bet sizing, I'd like to tell you about betting in general. In Hold'em, every time you bet, you have to have a reason for it, a very specific one. You could be betting for value, because you think you have a better hand than your opponent and you want to get as many of his chips as possible. You could also be betting to force your opponent off his hand, because you think you have a weaker hand and you think his hand is weak enough that your bet can force him to fold it. Also, every time you bet, you gain an important piece of information that allows you to narrow down the range of hands your opponent could have in that spot. We will talk more about hand ranges in a future video. So let's talk about the pre-flop bet sizing. In cash games, your standard opening should be 3 big blinds plus 1 big blind for every limper in the pot. A limper is someone who just calls the big blind. If someone has already raised and you want to re-raise or 3-bet, your standard 3-bet should be about 3 times his raise. In tournaments, it's a little different because you want to preserve chips. So while your standard opening might still be 3 big blinds at the beginning of the tournament, you should gradually make it smaller as the tournament goes on. You will often see players in the late phase of the tournament opening for anywhere from 2 to 2.5 big blind, and that's what you should do too, because 2.2 big blind raise will achieve almost the same results as 3 big blind raise, and you are risking less with the smaller opening. It's the same with 3-bets. In a tournament, a standard 3-bet could be about 2.5 times the raise. Again, we will talk more about this in the video about 3-bets. So after the flop, how do you size your bets? Well, you have to look at the pot and see how big it is, and then bet between 50 and 100% of the size of the pot. If you're only just starting out playing poker, I'd recommend using just 2 standard bet sizings. The first one should be about 50% of the pot, and the second about 70% of the pot. Every time you want to bet, you should use either of these. When you get more practice, you will experiment with having different sizings for different situations. You always want to bet just as little as you think is enough to make your opponent fold, or just as much as you think that he will call. Also, you need to be consistent with your sizing. You should always bet the same way, whether you're betting for value or bluffing, so that you are hard to read for your opponents. So now you know how to size your bets. You know that your standard pre-flop raise should be about 3 big blinds plus 1 for every limper. Your standard re-raise or a 3-bet should be about 3 times the initial raise. You know that after the flop you should count the chips in the pot and bet a percentage of it. You will develop your own bet sizing with practice, but for starters I recommend just having 2 standard bet sizings, 50 and 70% of the pot. You should know that in tournaments you should make your sizing smaller, because you're always trying to preserve chips and you're always trying to risk as little chips as possible. You know that every time you bet, you have to have a reason for it, and it can be either value betting or bluffing. And lastly, you know that you should be consistent with your betting, and you should always bet the same amounts with the same ranges in specific spots. Thank you so much for watching, and congratulations! You are now one step closer to becoming an awesome poker player. If you enjoyed this lesson, please share it with your friends, click the like button and subscribe for more future videos. You should know that it is very important that you put the knowledge you have acquired into practice. This course will teach you all you need to know in order to beat the small stakes games, but you gotta practice. You have to get comfortable playing poker. You have to learn these fundamentals by heart. I cannot stress this enough. You will only get better if you practice. Even 15 minutes a day will do wonders for your game in the long term. So, have fun playing, and I wish you all good luck. See you in the next lesson.